You know, Brooklyn is the place where I live. It's a place that I recognize as home. I can remember being a young man living in institutional placement and stuff and not really being able to have much say about where you're going to be, where you're going to go, where you're not going to go. A judge, you know, can mandate you to stay at this place or that place.
As a teenager, you know, if you'd have given me a book and said, hey man, this is the Odyssey, hey man, this is Moby Dick, read it, I'd have been like, I have no interest. When looking at this picture, this image on a silver screen or in a magazine, this is amazing. This represents this limitless possibilities. How do I find out more about it? How do I work harder at becoming that very thing? Well, here's a book. It's the Arnold Schwarzenegger Encyclopedia of Bodybuilding. Read it. Okay.
I can recall working really hard towards getting where I wanted to go. I wanted to become a professional bodybuilder. And I remember originally being locked away in a place where those things were not expected of you.
I had a reason to apply some of these skills to be able to, you know, crack this nut. And that wasn't about strength. That was about an idea of identifying myself as an academic, an intelligent person that's able to think about the intellectual pursuit.
This little boy in this institution started working out. We'd do push-ups. I would do push-ups until I couldn't move. They put me on suicide watch, and they, had to jump through a bunch of hurdles to convince the facility that I wasn't trying to commit suicide. I wasn't on a hunger strike. I was trying to get ready for a competitive bodybuilding competition that, you know, they already understood that you weren't supposed to be allowed to do in the first place. First, the idea of being able to leave the institutional facility to go and be allowed to compete in a bodybuilding competition that was taking place, you know, in, you know, regular society, a society that you were locked away from. I guess it would make sense that in the logic system of a pre-teen, you know, hey, I'll work out and I'll condition the world's way of responding to me, you know, by just making myself more muscular. And in the beginning, there was a lot of resistance, but in time, with a lot of deliberate effort, eventually, you know, you had people looking around saying, well, you know, maybe it's not so bad that the young guy wants to work out, you know. And now, instead of discouraging at some point, hey, they actually started to bring you, you know, things to encourage you. Stepping stones can be made out of obstacles, you know, so obstacles are important. I had some really awesome people that worked in the facility that just, you know, really encouraged me. And I thought at that time that they saw bodybuilding greatness in my genetics, and they believed that I could one day be Mr. Olympia. And that's why, you know, they were so willing to encourage me. Ultimately, it was those positives, I think, that really went a long way in having my case reevaluated. And this guy, this young man, this troubled young man will be able to maybe save his own life.
You want to say you got too big for bodybuilding?
Well, you know what, I don't want to say I got too big for bodybuilding, but there's definitely some realities that I realized were well beyond my control. Your job as the athlete is to focus on your training, focus on presenting your package, and the things that are outside of your control you can't worry about. See, I don't want to say anything to upset anybody, you know, so I'm going to take a minute and deliver this with the masterful Kai Greene, barely saying anything, doesn't say anything, but says a lot more than you thought I did. They fucked me, really, nah. Everybody wants to be tough when there's no reason to be tough. Sitting in the audience watching, there's a luxury that's built into that. It's the only thing you have to spend in order to participate as you are at that time is, you know, paying your electric bill or you paying your cable. That is a very small price to pay when you compare it to what the athletes are paying. You ask the weak guy, hey, I'd love to be Ronnie Coleman. But then when you saw Ronnie Coleman years after that, you know, having back surgery after back surgery, wow, this guy's had this back surgery. Why is he doing that? I wouldn't do that. Of course, why not? it's not as important to you. This was always important to him because of other reasons that you don't know. You don't share the same luxury in common with the enthusiast because there's more of yourself invested in this because this is your life. I think everything that we've experienced, good or bad, is ultimately what we use to help us get where we're going, you know, to help us get what we want to create. This thing is about work. It is about work. And make no mistake about it, when you're not working on one project, you still have other projects that you need to be working on. There's so many things that can go wrong potentially. You're not expecting them to go wrong. You know, you're working to hopefully set things up right. But how the hell does this dude get here? They put him on the cover of magazines. Why? Because he's pretty? No. Because he works real hard. Being successful is one of those things that, make no mistake about it, it can be a beast. And there are levels, but there's a certain level of pressure that comes along with the spotlight that I think without a certain amount of preparation, I think it can kill you. So I don't know, when I think about my own legacy, I don't know if I feel validated just yet to really say that I am thinking about my legacy, because I think I still gotta work. I got a lot of work to do, and I really don't believe that my best is behind me. No, there are new challenges, and sometimes even the ability to attain the new goals, you know, mean that you still have to pay attention to the old lessons learned. Sometimes people will ask you, well, so what was the single one thing that you did that made the difference between you being a champion or less than that? And I don't know if it can be identified as one thing, you know, one moment, one decision. Honestly, I really don't know. I think I'm not supposed to know.
Generation Iron 2.